All right, joining me now to discuss where we are is Dan O'Shea, retired Navy SEAL commander and former hostage negotiator for the Hostage Working Group. Dan, good morning. Good to see you again.
Good morning.
So Netanyahu is rejecting Hamas's demands to pull out entirely and to give up thousands of Palestinian prisoners. So my question is, now what? Where do things go from here?
Well, it's the devil's in the details. There's been ongoing negotiations, principally in Qatar, we know in Egypt as well, by leaders from across the world, including the U.S. They have tentatively gone back and forth on a three-phase ceasefire, where there would first phase would release the elderly and any children left among the hostages, and I believe the women would be in the second phase, and then the last phase would be military males. But that requires a ceasefire on behalf of the IDF. But on the flip side, both sides have positions that are intractable, as in Netanyahu that says we will not give up prisoners that are accused of war crimes. On the flip side, Hamas says they will not release any hostages unless there's a total ceasefire. So right now you've got two sides putting up intractable positions, but there's tremendous pressure. And hopefully the initial ceasefire that was successful a month ago will set the stage that this can happen again and we can get more hostages released.
So Dan, we're months into this conflict. Based on your experience, what makes negotiating within this context different now than it was back in November, say?
Well, the players are still there. You've got the world community negotiating, but the two principals have not sat across the table from each other. Hamas and Netanyahu, the leader of Israel and his government, they will not sit down across the table from each other, which means you can't get the two sides that need to negotiate across the table. So it's all done through third-party cutouts and intermediaries. So that's why it is so challenging. And again, both sides have two stated aims: to wipe each other out, both from Palestine, the Hamas itself. Their stated charter is to wipe out Israel, and Netanyahu's made it very clear they will not stop the IDF in Gaza or elsewhere until the threat to Israel is eliminated. So that's unfortunately why this is such a challenging negotiation process.
Is it in the interest of Hamas to keep this war going at all?
Well, listen, Hamas, they knew this was going to happen. They knew that well, I don't think they realized quite the extent of the IDF response, but this is a playbook for them. They're trying to escalate this. And again, this is a larger picture. We know that internationally, Iran is pushing this. A lot of this is driven by fomenting unrest in the region. And this is just one part of the bigger scale. The Houthi issues we have now in the shipping lanes, the escalation of attacks. You had 3 American soldiers killed this week. So we're sitting on a tinder keg, and the Gaza-Israeli conflict is just one small component of the larger picture, which is potentially threatening another massive war in the Middle East.
Okay, and part of that larger picture, and this is going to be my final question, unplanned, but I'm sure you can roll with it, Dan. Yesterday, U.S. President Joe Biden said he'd made his mind up about how the White House will respond to the killing of those 3 soldiers in Jordan. What do you think that response will look like? What do you think it will be?
Well, listen, I think the response to date, there's been 160 attacks against U.S. positions, U.S. personnel. Now we have 3 soldiers whose lives are lost. The response has been feckless to date. And again, the Biden administration is trying to prevent escalation of a direct conflict with Iran. But inevitably, Tehran is driving a lot of this. They're the one arming the Houthis. They're the ones that trained Hamas and supplied them. So it may be inevitable that these small responses by the U.S. to date have not stopped. And Biden's foreign policy in the region and the world is a one-letter word: don't. He's tried to say that multiple times, not only in the Ukraine conflict, but here in the Middle East. And no one's listening to that. So we've really been feckless. And I don't think anyone is taking anything out of this administration seriously right now. And it's why the escalation has happened. And now the blood of 3 American soldiers is is where we are today. So who knows what the response will be, but if history is any pattern of what's happened, I guarantee these attacks on American bases in the region are going to continue until a stronger message is sent, unfortunately.
And perhaps we'll hear what that decision is today from Joe Biden. Dan O'Shea, he's a retired Navy SEAL commander and a former hostage coordinator for the Hostage Working Group. Thank you so much. Great to chat with you as always.